And you're in tune with the Barry Foster Show, coming to you from the Ridge Floor Studios here in the City of Charm, beautiful Avon Park. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions, people you'd like us to interview, or topics you'd like us to broach, just put them in the comments below, and we'll be glad to get those. We have a great racing series. We've talked with Charles Mendez and Dave Cowart. We've talked with Bill Boyer from Highlands Racing. So today we have Tom Moore, who is currently with Campbell Marketing and Communications, but I've known Tom a long time. I did not realize that your first race was in 1999 with the original ALMS series. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Barry. And yeah, thanks for having me. Just based on the names you just mentioned, I'm in a steam company, and I'm definitely outweighed there. But yeah, my first race was the 1999 12 Hours of Sebring, the first American LeMans Series race officially ever held.
Now, as I remember, back in '99, the new pit structure wasn't even up yet. We were still back in the old Tony Bono press room. Is that the way you remember it?
That is 100% correct. Yeah, I whenever I see people today, I just look at them and go, "You have no idea what you missed," for good and bad, right? But yeah, it was still the old structure, where where you had the pit lane right there with the kind of those garage stalls, for lack of a better definition, and yeah, it definitely, when you look back at some of the great stuff from the 70s and the 80s and even back into the 60s, you could relate to that.
Can you remember coming to Sebring for the first time, looking around, thinking, "What have I gotten myself into?"
It's funny. I remember because I've loved this sport since I was 10 years old. And when I showed up at Sebring, there was this moment of realization, um, of holy cow, I am at Sebring. This is the 12 hours of Sebring. I recognize that bridge. I recognize this. I don't recognize that, but yeah, I can vividly remember that moment. It's sort of funny. The series was just starting out, and budgets were tight. Don Panos was, resurrecting the sport. Let's be honest. And I shared a room with one of the Radio Lamar guys. We were just sharing houses anywhere we could go, and it was just a magical experience for a kid who was just coming out of college, and looking at starting a career in this. And what a great place to start, Sebring.
So, were you a copywriter for ALMS, or did you do radio interviews, or what was your actual task while you were there?
Yeah, we had a really small team on the PR staff, led by Jan Schaefer, who was, sadly is passed on. Um, but Jan was renowned for starting race series PR, but brought me on board, and my job was to run up and down pit lane during the 12 hours and before it, to go into the garage or wherever and just get quotes and updates, and to update what was going on, so that information could be taken back upstairs to you and the other media that was in the press room, so that you could keep your notes of what was happening with every pit stop or driver change, everything. So that was my role, pit note boy.
Did you have cell phones or something, so you could phone it up, or did you have to hand run it back up into the press room?
Oh man, I wish we'd had cell phones. That would have made life a lot easier. But yeah, those wouldn't become practical for a few more years. But what we would do is we had radios, and so I was sort of the lead on the team, and then we would have volunteers that would be, across the different pit stalls and rotate through just like the drivers do. I think I worked all 12 hours, and I was fine with that, ready to go again. But we would gather that information on our notes, and then do a radio call back upstairs to Linda Havens, who sat on the radio on that side of things, took the notes down, handed them to Jan, and handed them to Lee Driggers, who Lee's still with the IMSA series, and then they would distribute those notes to the media.
Did you get a chance to walk around the grounds during the race, or were you pretty much stuck doing your job?
I was pretty much stuck doing my job. I honestly don't think I had made it out of the paddock or pit lane, even across the bridge, probably for 5 years after I started at Sebring. There are still parts of the racetrack I have not been to personally on foot.
We'll have to fix that. So,
I know, yeah.
so how long did you work for the American LeMans Series before you moved on?
Well, I worked that first year, and then I had an opportunity to go into what was my dream of the time, which was to go into IndyCar racing, and worked with an IndyCar team, Blueprint Racing, and driver Jimmy Kite in 2000. So I that was just the dream come true for me, and so I jumped over there, but still helped and supported the ALMS when I could. Still had some friends who were running in the American Le Mans Series, running in the Women's Global GT Series, which is now defunct, but still some great uh, female drivers that came out of there. So I've been to almost all of the Sebrings since then in one form or another. But yeah, I went IndyCar racing for a couple of years before I came back full time.
Now, when did you start Darkhorse Racing and Communications?
Yeah, I started Darkhorse Autosport pretty much right when I started, although at the time it was actually Darkhorse Communications. I started that right out of the door because I was a freelancer, and so I needed somewhere to channel that money for the IRS, and so I created Darkhorse, and it just lived for all those years since until about December of last year when I went to work for Campbell.
Now, I think the first year I met you was in 2015 when Brian Sellers was driving the Falcon Porsche, and
Yeah.
you did a lot of representation for him. And by the time you'd gotten there in 2015, the track with Brian, the track had changed a lot. There was a hotel that'd been there for better than a decade. Things had settled down. It had gotten a little more sophisticated since 1999.
Oh man, had it. Yeah, it was night and day difference. And every year I go back, I'm that much more amazed. But when you look at what I often tell people I was blessed with the opportunity to get to work with Dr. Don Panos, and he, he was phenomenal. What he did, what he invested with no background in motorsport, including the hotel, including owning Sebring. The changes that he brought to that track were phenomenal. Now we see it, under the NASCAR guidance, and it continues. And but yeah, it's amazing when you look at just the simple things. It's like, where do we park, or the media center? You and I spent a lot of time in that media center. We watched it expand. We watched it move. It's moved a couple of times. Yeah, so whether it was in 99, whether it was in 2015, or 2025, it's just been amazing watching that progress happen.
Yeah, the old Tony Bono pit structure has been demolished, and now the F1 style pit structure is up there now. They've moved it back a little bit, and as you say, the media center's kind of moved hither and yon. When you came with Brian Sellers in 2015, you'd moved from a series, a well organized series, to representing really kind of a privateer in a very small team. Did that give you any particular problems or any new challenges?
Yeah, it's funny, depending on who you represent. And I've had the joy of working with almost every aspect of this business you can, whether it's with drivers, whether it's with the series, the manufacturers, and so forth. And they all bring different unique challenges. When you're working with the series, then you kind of control. You're sort of the air traffic controller of the area. When you are working with a driver, it's on the opposite end of the spectrum. You have to go out there and find those things. You have to fight for the stories. You have to, reach out to you and beg and plead, and ask you to do a story on Brian, and or whomever the driver is. And when you work for a manufacturer, it's whether that's with Porsche before or now with Ford Performance. Yeah, it's a whole, everything's different. There are similarities in the job, but how you do it and the ease that you do it. Are they who's more likely to answer your email or your phone call? Typically, when you're with the manufacturer like Ford, they answer that phone call a lot quicker than
And,
if you're representing a driver.
yeah, and I remember you reached out to me, and we had Brian on the air a couple of times. A great
Yep.
kid. He was a great kid.
Yes.
You know, now you went from that privateer team to working with Porsche, who let's use the term structured. They're a little structured in their organization. Uh,
Just a little.
we are very structured in what we do. I did not. Was that a bit of a culture shock moving from you calling all the shots, you having to do everything from washing the dishes to getting the press releases out, to where Viva tell you exactly what you will do and there will be no chewing of gum.
You know what? It's funny. I fell right into the Porsche system, and because I'm very process oriented, I tend to be very organized. I would occasionally joke that I was more German than everybody in the room at that when I'd be sitting in a Porsche meeting, just because of that organizational structure, and I loved it. And so I didn't have a hard time joining it or getting into that at all, really, Barry. It was a joy because I was able to step back a little bit and know that Andy Schupak or Dave Engelman, who were both at Porsche at the time, I didn't have the opportunity to work directly under Bob Carlson, who had passed before I joined Porsche. But I had that chance to work with those people and their successors at Porsche, and yeah, just immediately fell into it and felt right in step with everything, and knew that I had a team around me at that point, which was just incredible.
Was that when you worked with Porsche? Was that all again the Porsche teams, everybody from the GT3s on up to the prototypes?
Yeah, if it was a Porsche on a racetrack in North America, we were covering it. We were going to at that time, we were going to almost every event, and representing them, whether it was, the one make series all the way up to, whether, my last year with Porsche would have been with the 963 and the Porsche Penske team. So, yeah, we worked with all of it. And it was just great. You got to know the culture, you got to know the people, and at all of those levels, and you saw that seamless thread that went all the way through it, which now with my time at Ford has just accelerated that, just watching that whole feeling, because at Ford we do all the same things and a lot more, and have the same amazing fan base and customer base.
And so now you've moved on to Ford, with Campbell Marketing Communications, Ford being your client, and you've come, I guess, what we say, full circle. You went from the American LeMans Series to now the Ford Mustang Challenge, another series that's running the IMSA circuit.
Yeah, and that's been another very, very cool part about it. It's been the opportunity to take what I've learned over the years, and now watch to see how that can grow within Ford. I was tasked, let's say, I was blessed, I'd like to think, with the opportunity to get to launch the Porsche Carrera Cup North America back a number of years ago. And then I wasn't part of the launching of Mustang Challenge North America, but at least I came in year two, and seeing those same challenges, no pun intended, is it has been great, and being able to utilize what I've learned, and then turn that into, and help, I hope, help Ford grow its one make base as well.
Well, we're here in Sebring, and I like to talk about the 12. So, does going to the different tracks, do you then have kind of a different mindset? Like, I know that when the third week in March comes around, I'll see. I describe it as kind of like Christmas week. You see all your friends, you get some free presents, and you have a little party, and sit around and talk with people you only see once a year. And I'm that guy from Sebring. I'm that I can't remember his name, but that one guy that's always there at Sebring, the local guy. That's me. Do you have people that you know, a week, a month beforehand, you start touching base with, that that we're going to see you there. We want to make sure. this part of my job gets covered by your media? Do you have certain people that you go and make contact with to make sure that things are going to go smoothly?
Yeah, we do. I mean, obviously, there's point people at every racetrack we go to, but some are different. Sebring is in that different, that different column because it's so traditional and it has such a long history. And there is that personal feeling. I mean, yes, we have that when, a little bit of that when we go to Daytona, particularly with the track people. You see the same people, whether it's at the Daytona 20, the Rolex 24, or whether it's at the Daytona 500, a few weeks later. Um, you know, I had that last week when I went to Indianapolis for the NASCAR race. Um, you have that at certain places. Road America, where IMSA is this weekend, is a tremendous example of that. But I will say, and that's not just because I'm speaking to you, Barry, but there is something about Sebring that it is going home. For so many years, that was the start of our year. When the split was happening with Grand Am and the American LeMans Series, I didn't go to Daytona very often for the 24 hour. My start of the year was in March at Sebring. And so every year, we'd look forward to it and we'd look forward to seeing you and Ken Breslauer and everybody that was there. And you get to see the same people, whether it's the guard, the gate guards when you come in, whether it's the people at, catering or whatever it is. It's like you said, it's like Christmas. You have that opportunity. It's that family reunion, even when they're not exactly family members. So that's a great thing about our sport. It's something that if you're involved in it, you understand instantly. If you're not involved in it, you quite can't put your brain around what it is like to tour and travel all around the world, really, with the same group of people, and how close you are to them. But when we get to come home to Sebring, get to see you and everyone, it's that feeling of, okay, I'm home. This is good. I know where I'm going to eat dinner tonight. I'm headed down to, you know, well, I won't name names because I don't know who sponsors you, Barry.
Oh, that's
But
okay. You can name whatever names you want. That's fine.
well, we know we're going to go down to the Sunset Grill. We know we're going to go down to Chicanes and see people, and we have those opportunities. And it is coming home. And it's one of the great things, and one of the reasons I was excited when you reached out to me about doing this call.
Yeah, we got a new place called the Grill on Lake Jackson. You're really going to love when you come down here. Yeah, let me ask you, Tommy. You've been coming to the 12 hours for 25 years. Have you had any humorous or interesting experiences? That everybody's got a Sebring story. Have you had something happen to you that you would say this can only really happen here?
There's a couple. I don't. It's funny. There are a number that whether they're at the racetrack or not. I remember, and forgive me, I can't always remember years, but I remember one year it rained so hard so quickly that the entire front stretch was just it was a swimming pool.
Hmm.
I mean, from pit wall to from wall to wall, the entire front stretch was like 6 inches deep of water. So it's that kind of thing. There's definitely the scenes of Sebring that you will always remember, whether it's the monks or the cows or whatever it is like that. I mean, that's just it's just a great thing to be connected back to. um there's some. I remember one year, and I won't go into the story too deeply since I suspect this is a family show, but we sat in our pit stall during the 12 hours, and as across the track or all of the RVs lined up, and there was one customer who lap after lap would raise her shirt as the cars would go by. I'm not sure who she was particularly raising it to, but so the entire team was waiting for that to happen, lap after lap, until security came and took her away. Unfortunately for the entertainment of the team. So that's one of them. But yeah, there's there's just so many. It's almost impossible to recount them all. I got locked out of the hauler once. Had to wear my fire suit back to the place we were staying. Fortunately, I had my car keys. I did not have my wallet. I was fortunate enough. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 by that point, so I didn't get pulled over. I think the statute of limitations has run out on that one. Yeah, so there's just so many great stories. I'm sure I could keep coming up with them, one after the other, no doubt.
Getting there before the sun comes up and leaving after the goes down is a very common experience for a lot of us out there at the 12. Let me ask you, Tom, is there anything that you've heard about, things that you've wanted to do, but every year, I mean, you're working for the series, you're working for a team, you're working for a communications company, something, you say next year I'm going to get out and do that. I'm going to really go and do that. Is there anything that is on your kind of Sebring bucket list?
You'll laugh at this, Barry. In the 25 years I have been there, I have not gone very deep into Green Park. So maybe that will be my retirement. At some point, my last Sebring, I will about the 8:30 hour, maybe I'll sneak out there and check it out. Just to see. So that's probably the thing on my bucket list to do at Sebring.
Well, they now allow golf carts back in there, and I will recommend you go see my friends over at Turn 10 because apparently there are a lot of drivers that go over. They have scaffolding. They have a wonderful encampment there, and they go there to watch how drivers are driving the turns. And I think for the Mustang Challenge, it would be a good thing for you to get out there and to Turn 10. And they're really friendly and nice people. It would be a that would be a nice check off your bucket list to get one of their VIP tags. I'll get you one of their VIP tags out there, okay?
I think that would be awesome. I worked with Shane Lewis for years,
Oh
and
yes, go
Shane had a
Shane, go!
huge, yeah, go Shane go, and we took that, we made that into a whole marketing campaign for Shane. So I know well of the Turn 10 guys, and Shane would go out there on his own and enjoy hanging out with them. I never got the chance to go out there with him, but yeah, know those guys very well.
And the other thing we will do is if you get them a big sticker, we'll get you a ride on the La Bamba Racer. Okay, they're always looking for sponsorships, so I can see a big Mustang Challenge sticker going on there and getting you a ride there. Just for PR purposes, you understand. You're working for the company. You can be on the clock.
There you go. All right. We'll look into that for next year for sure. Next March, we'll be back and you know, look forward to having Mustang Challenge out there again. I will break my own embargo a little bit and tell you that Mustang Challenge is going to launch its season again next year at Sebring. And so we'll definitely be back out there for that, as well as have the GT3 and the Ford Mustang GT3 and GT4s out there, and who knows, maybe one day we'll get the hypercar to come over from the World Endurance Championship and see if we can't get it running around for the 12 hours too.
That was my question. I understand the hypercar is under development, and there's a lot of cars that come out and very quietly go out and do the 3.7 mile course out here, just uh, because if anything can get vibrated loose, it'll happen at Sebring. So I just wondered, are there any plans to see that car coming out here for a few test laps? Do you think?
Well, I'll be honest, Barry, I've not been privy to the actual test schedule at this point. I know we're going to do a big chunk of it in Europe, only because we announced at Le Mans this year that our chassis partner will be Orica. And Orica is obviously based in France, and so we'll do a lot of that out, a lot of the testing over in Europe. But you know, pure speculation based on nothing except for 25 years, as you meanly counted up in this business, would suggest that you're exactly right. There's nowhere better to really beat the heck out of a car and learn every element of what it is quicker than Sebring. There's a reason that all these teams go there and test. There's a reason, whether it's an Indy car or a GT3 car, or why everybody wants to go race the Mustang Challenge North America in the Mustang Darkhorse R at Sebring. I mean, it's that track, and so you learn so much there about the car, and you obviously learn a lot about yourself. It's not a secret to say that the 12 hours of Sebring is longer than the 24 hours of Daytona. Um, when it comes right down to it, you learn a lot more in 12 hours than you do in 24, and that goes for people too. I'll say that. Longest race I work every year is the 12 hours, and I mean that in the very best way. And so it would not shock me if we found, some testing time out there with the hypercar at some point, just for that very reason.
Well, just remember, if that word ever drifts across my desk, my desk here, all news tips are strictly confidential. Your secrets are safe with me. So
I don't know, Barry. I think I probably, slipped you a couple of those in the last 25 years,
yes,
so
and they're
yeah.
very much appreciated. Makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about. Tom,
Oh, trust me, you do. You do know what you're talking about, Barry.
I, I,
I can
I
promise
really,
you.
I really appreciate, I really appreciate all you've done over the years for Sebring and our friendship as well, and sharing your remembrances of Sebring. We're trying to compile as many of these as we can, and I know you're a busy guy up there with Campbell, so I really appreciate your time today. I really do.
Oh, thank you very much, Barry. I was very, very excited when you reached out. I don't do a lot of these things. Usually I'm standing behind the driver or the, team owner or whatever, during their chats with you. So it's an honor to just have the opportunity to get to talk to you directly and be the voice. So thank you very much. Yeah, you are. I won't build up your ego too much, but Barry, you are definitely the voice of Sebring, and we're always delighted to get to work with you.
Thank you. So from the ALMS to Campbell Marketing and Communications, my buddy Tom Moore, talking about the 12 hours and some other auto sports related information. Tom, I will see you at the 12. I promise you. You've been listening to the Barry Foster Show, coming to you from the Ridge Floor Studios in beautiful downtown Avon Park. Any thoughts, ideas, or suggestions and comments, just put them on the comments below, or you can reach us at thebarryfostershow@gmail.com. As we continue to look for truth, justice, and the American way, this is Barry Foster, and we'll see you next time.